Okay, gonna be another audio only presentation because my camera's kind of glitchy right now, but we hit 70 subscribers, so getting to talk about another autistic character. Today's is Arthur Weasley from Harry Potter. Now, as I'm sure you're aware from the name of the channel and the tattoo I did a video about, I really like Harry Potter. It's one of my special interests and has been since I was about 13 years old, so this has been a long running thing. It's also honestly a really good place to find quite a few different neurodivergent characters. My two favorite characters in the franchise are Sirius Black and Remus Lupin. This is me last Halloween as Remus Lupin, just to show, like, yep, it's still a very strong special interest. I don't think either of them are on the spectrum. I think Sirius has ADHD. But then also PTSD and depression, and then Lupin, I think, has depression and possibly anxiety as well. Largely brought on by his situation with being a werewolf, but there we go. And there's also a few... So, while neither of my favorite characters seem to be on the spectrum from what I can tell, quite a few characters are, and the first one in the franchise that we meet, I would argue, is Arthur Weasley. I have a clip here that I discovered does not work when I'm doing this, so we're not going to play this clip. One of the first things we hear about Mr. Weasley, and the main thing we learn about him over the course of the franchise, he loves Muggles. He's obsessed with them. He's fascinated by Muggle technology. He describes his dearest ambition as to find out how airplanes stay up. And in the clip that I wanted to include from the Order of the Phoenix, it's him and Harry traveling to the Ministry of Magic, and Mr. Weasley gets excited by the existence of subways, escalators, the automated, I keep doing that, ticket taker. And his reaction is also different from other wizards we see react to Muggle stuff. Usually when we see wizards reacting to things like the subway, it's oh, can you believe it? Look at this stuff these Muggles come up with. Oh, I can't imagine how they get on without magic. I hate traveling non-magically. I would hate this. It's usually like, this is interesting and I guess clever, but oh, I'd rather be magical, and I can't imagine how they get on without magic. Mr. Weasley, though, when he's confronted with Muggle technology, is always fascinated and delighted and talks about how clever it is and how exciting it is, and he wants to know how it works. So even just his reaction to Muggle technology is different from a lot of the wizards we see. In the Half-Blood Prince, this little countersign of this question to make sure Mrs. Weasley knows that it's him and not someone disguised as him, is this dearest ambition to find out how airplanes stay up. It's a very unique response to Muggles and Muggle technology among the wizards in the series. And I think has all the markings of being a special interest / hyperfixation. In the Goblet of Fire, he gets excited by the existence of an electric fire and the Dursleys' house. He can't say electric correctly because he's not super familiar with the concept. He's trying to work through it. We see some of that later. But it's exciting. And even though he's in a quite literally tight spot, being inside a blocked up fireplace squished against a bunch of his sons, that's all forgotten because, wow, they have an electric fireplace and I've got to see it. He's really interested in Muggles and Muggle technology and seems to regard Muggle technology as something that could be combined with magic and benefit wizards, as seen especially with the Flying Ford Anglia. Okay, there we go. I've never embedded a clip before, so I'm working that out as I go. But he seems to view Muggle technology as something that can be paired with magic to benefit wizards, as in the case of the Flying Ford Anglia, that sort of funnily important plot device from the Chamber of Secrets. And I say funnily because it seems like a gag at first, and then it, comes back and quite literally saves their lives. So we know he bought this car, beat up old Ford Anglia, and told his wife that all he wanted to do with it was take it apart, see how it worked. We know he likes to tinker, and he's deeply interested in finding out how Muggle technology works, how electricity works, how cars work. Frankly, I'm still not entirely sure exactly how cars work, but the dedication to taking this thing apart and seeing how it works is impressive. And neglects to mention he wants to enchant it and make it fly, which is partly a big deal because he's the head of the misuse of Muggle artifacts office, so part of his job is making sure people don't take Muggle stuff and enchant it, because that can be bad if it ever gets back into Muggle hands and they have this magical thing and they're not going to know how it works and they might hurt themselves. His response, though, is that there's a loophole in the law such that if he wasn't intending to fly the car, technically the fact that the car is able to fly isn't against the law. And then she cuts him off. She's like, you wrote that law. You made sure there was a loophole. So this government worker, severely underpaid government worker in charge of the department to make sure no one enchants Muggle stuff, made sure there was a loophole so that he could continue with his special interest and his hobby of enchanting Muggle stuff. Like, just as long as I'm doing this in this specific way, I'll be able to keep doing this, but also keep other people from doing it wrong. So I just think that's funny and also like understandable. Have a nice day. You want to keep going with your special interest, but you understand that a lot of people aren't doing this to be just for the sake of interest. So I just think the Ford Anglia is an interesting one because he's making sure there's a loophole in these laws he's helping pass so that he can keep going with his special interests and his hobbies while maintaining the law. And then when she tells him the boys took the car and flew it to Harry's house and back, his first thought is, oh, did it work? Because he's never flown it. Again, as long as he technically wasn't going to fly the car, not illegal. So the fact that the boys did it is at first just exciting. And then Mrs. Weasley gets mad and he has to be backtracked and be like, I mean, you shouldn't have done that, boys. Not okay, but also did it work because that'd be really cool. So I love it. Even in the face of the boys did the thing they weren't supposed to do, he just gets excited because, oh my goodness, it worked. My experiment worked. Additionally, of course, collecting can be a sign. I collect Harry Potter memorabilia. And Mr. Weasley collects Muggle stuff, as Fred puts it. Like I mentioned with the Ford Anglia, he likes to tinker with any Muggle artifacts he finds, puts spells on it, and puts it back together again. And then talking about loopholes in the law, if he ever raided the Weasley's house, he'd have to put himself under arrest because he's doing a lot of the things that technically he's supposed to be preventing people from doing. He also talks about in Goblet of Fire, he has a large collection of batteries and plugs. So I think within the Muggle special interest, I think electricity and how that works is sort of a subcategory, additional special interest, because he's interested in all things Muggle, but electricity isn't a particular fascination, it seems, which, since magic makes electricity stop working, I think it makes sense that he would be especially fascinated by this thing that Muggles seem to use as their primary way of getting along without using magic that doesn't work around sources of magic. So that's another. His collection, I think, is another indicator, especially the collection of plugs and batteries. This idea that there's like these two, they're separate. Collecting categories of things. I've been getting into the collectible minifigures. It's not good, but also good because they bring me joy. So I get it. And then I just wanted to have some fun pictures up because I'm planning on reading this section from The Goblet of Fire. It's very short, just a couple selections of Mr. Weasley being somewhat awkward, some observations that I think speak to some of the more social aspects of being autistic. So here we go. Starting here, keep in mind Mr. Weasley has just blasted away half the Dursleys' living room wall because he has to get past the electric fireplace to get to Harry. So this is when they're all in the room. He says, yeah, so he apologizes for destroying part of their living room. Then he says, "Well," said Mr. Weasley, swinging his arms slightly, which incidentally could be a stimming behavior. He's in a very awkward situation, having just blown up half these people's living room, looking at these entirely hostile Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia, and he's starting to swing his arms around a little bit, which could be stimming. "Well," said Mr. Weasley, swinging his arms slightly while he tried to find words to break the very nasty silence. Very nice place you've got here." As the usually spotless living room was now covered in dust and bits of brick, this remark didn't go down too well with the Dursleys. He probably sounds sarcastic, but I suspect he might mean it, and not even just as a politeness thing, because Mr. Weasley was looking around. He loved everything to do with Muggles. Harry could see him itching to go and examine the television and video recorder. So I think more than being polite, it seems like he genuinely means it, simply because he's so excited to be in a Muggle house. Let's see. Yes, then he tries to talk to Dudley. He thinks Dudley might be mad, as this book puts it, because he's walking around clutching his rear end because of the Hagrid tail incident, and he doesn't want to meet another wizard. Just trying to be polite, and then at the end here, right before they leave, Harry says goodbye to the Dursleys. The Dursleys just stand there stiffly, and then Mr. Weasley holds out a hand to stop Harry from leaving and says, "He was looking at the Dursleys in amazement. 'Harry said goodbye to you,' he said. 'Didn't you hear him?' 'It doesn't matter,' Harry muttered to Mr. Weasley. 'Honestly, I don't care.' Mr. Weasley did not remove his hand from Harry's shoulder. 'You aren't going to see your nephew till next summer,' he said to Uncle Vernon in mild indignation. 'Surely you're going to say goodbye.' Uncle Vernon's face worked furiously. The idea of being taught consideration by a man who had just blasted away half his living room wall seemed to be causing him intense suffering. So, he's observing this great discourtesy. And there seem to be signals that, like, Harry doesn't really care. Harry's used to it. Telling them about it may not even be the most, shall we say, politic thing to do in this situation, because they're very clearly hostile. But Mr. Weasley doesn't care about any of that. They did something rude or wrong, and they should be called on it. And honestly, I'm happy he does. More people need to call out the Dursleys in those books. Why does no one call CPS or whatever the British equivalent is? But leaving that aside for now, the fact that instead of noticing the Dursleys don't want Harry there, and it's very... no words are spoken. It's not explicitly stated, but it's heavily implied. And his response is, I should call them on their behavior. Even though that may not be well received. Or all he thinks is, okay, someone's doing something that's not okay, I should call them on it. Which I think is another sign that maybe there's a justice thing going on, and he doesn't care that the fact that he's just blown up part of their living room may mean that it's not a good time to be calling them on problematic behavior, according to maybe social convention. He doesn't care about that. He's just going to call them on the behavior because it's not okay. So I think that could be another indicator of Mr. Weasley being on the spectrum. And yeah, that about wraps it up. I don't want to ramble. I've already done one take of this video and then discovered my microphone was not working. So this is the take 2, which means you get the slightly more polished version. Yeah. I'm excited to do, if we get to 80 and then to 90, I'm excited to do a couple more autistic Harry Potter character videos. I think probably Luna Lovegood for 80 if we get there, and then Newt Scamander from the Fantastic Beasts if we get to 90. And both of those I think have more material to draw from. Mr. Weasley doesn't have quite as much, but I did want to talk about it because the main thing we know about him is this hyperfixation, and then if you look, there's a couple more scenes that have things like social situations or indicators of moral rigidity or justice, strong justice sense that I think work. And obviously he becomes a member of the Order of the Phoenix, and what's good and just becomes more important than even maintaining good / advantageous relationships. But that's not unique to him. There's a lot of other characters that do the same thing. Yeah, just a few scenes to talk about this character. I'm probably not going to have as much time for videos over the rest of the summer as I originally thought I would. I've got a summer job that's going to take up quite a bit of my time, and I'm excited for it. It seems like it'll be a fun opportunity, but that also means that there may be fewer videos over the summer than I had originally anticipated. So thanks again for 70. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.